You're back.
I missed you.
I missed you. Although I
Oh,
absolutely loved having Eric. I don't want to say take my place, but
haha. No
having
one can
Eric
take your place.
and no one can take Eric's place. I wouldn't want to take Eric's place. That's a whole nother
No.
conversation. I loved having Eric share on the podcast, and he did such a fantastic job.
I was
So
proud of him. I was a little
I was
nervous. Yeah, but I think a little bit of my talents have rubbed off on him. He's even been getting into writing a little bit more, and I'm like,
you know,
"Look at
leadership is
you."
influence, and you could see it.
He's growing up so fast, isn't
There
he?
you go. Yeah, there you had, Eric on the podcast being a little bit more like you, and over the weekend, Lindsay's teaching a customer service workshop in Orlando. I mean,
I
what's
know,
happening
and she's
here? We're living
becoming
in the
you.
bizarre.
My gosh, what pretty soon they're gonna be having their own podcast, and we're just gonna be sitting off on the sidelines.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Lord. They're both like,
There
"I
you
don't
go.
think so."
Yeah, there you go. So,
Uh,
well, welcome back, and, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks since you were here, and before you
right.
jumped on the ship, you did a little backyard tour. So, talk to me about that.
I did. It was such a magical time, and if it weren't for you and Lindsay's little backyard tour of David Sheegog's Castle Peak and Thunder Railroad, I
Well,
would have
no,
had
shout out to reader and listener Jason Minsky, who
Ooh,
who turned us on to all of that.
well, thank you, Jason, because, prior to Jason, did you guys realize that that even existed?
I had heard about it, but I
Okay.
I didn't know where it was. I didn't know how to go see it, and I certainly wasn't aware of the extent to which it had been developed.
I can honestly say in preparing for the trip, I spent a lot of time on his website and looking at the gallery and the videos, but none of that even holds a candle to just how magnificent it is in person. And if you're driving through the neighborhood, just looking around, you would have absolutely no idea what's just on the other side of his beautifully decorated wrought iron gate that leads you through the back way there.
It's a standard suburban, I don't wanna say
Stucco.
quarter, but it's a, like, standard,
Yeah.
very nice, right,
Yeah.
home in suburban Southern California with a
Right.
relatively modest sized yard.
Yeah, they even have an HOA. So it's like it's no different than what we have here in Las Vegas. And I just kept thinking, of course, I always get the next idea of like, what can we upgrade next? And my
Right.
husband just shakes his head. But as I was looking around, I thought we could probably fit some of this in our yard if we tried hard enough. Right when you walk in, you are greeted with the not the people mover.
Oh, the sky
What's it
buckets.
the sky buckets, right?
Yep.
So you've got the cute little sky buckets that are going up and it leads you right above the train tracks. I mean, he has built tunnels, he's built working waterways and waterfalls and water fountains. He has what just blew me away. A replica of the Indiana Jones adventure, and you've got the castle, of course, greeting you right at the back of
Right.
his yard. I mean, we're talking even he kept it traditional, so don't come at me, but the Splash Mountain. He's like, I was very cautious to preserve Splash Mountain and not lean into Tiana's Bayou because he wanted to keep it the original, which I can
Good.
appreciate. Absolutely. Hats off to him for that. But I mean, everywhere you looked was just this seamless transition, as you know, from one part of the park into the next. The only thing that I was sad about, but I can understand why, is because he offered a private tour. So it was such a blessing. It was just David Sheegog, myself, and Eric. And we had literally the run of the place. And he even took us inside his beautiful home, which
Mhm.
has been immaculately updated to replicate the Disney Grand Californian Resort and Spa. And when I say they have not missed a detail, they have not missed a detail. But I did miss out on not seeing all of the characters that he has hidden around. So he
Right.
creates kind of his own storyline, with all the characters. And while he didn't have all of the railroads going, he did have Casey Jr. Circus Train out running around for us.
Which
So
is
that
the
was
best in my opinion.
is. It is. It was just so special. And I thought, which is what I wrote about, I just kept thinking about Walt Disney and how there was the same type of determination. And we could almost argue that maybe some of the similar limitations, right? Size was an issue for Walt, and he could not afford much more land than what he was able to scoop up with the orange groves in Anaheim. But yet he was able to build something so much bigger than I think anybody had anticipated. A lot like what David was able to do within the
Right.
confines of his own backyard. And it got me thinking, if David can create a miniature Disneyland replica in his backyard with the limitations of an HOA and the wall barrier and, nosy neighbors. And if Disney himself can build something so magical as Disneyland in the middle of Anaheim, then what are we waiting for? What could we possibly build in our own lives, right?
Right.
These aren't limitations, they're invitations to just maybe think a little bit more creatively, right? Maybe we have to scale something down, maybe we have to scale something up in order to see our dreams come true. So it was just a really great day of inspiration and lots of magic.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, that backyard is a real inspiration. And
Yeah.
everywhere you turn, you're like, whoa, I
Yeah.
can't believe they thought of this. I can't believe they replicated this. I can't believe they were able to create this. It's just
Right.
absolutely unbelievable, and a reminder of how Disneyland itself started as a miniature railroad in Disney's own backyard, right?
Very true.
So, yeah, be careful what you put in your backyard, right?
Right.
Mm.
Well, and I have a question for you. When you were there, did you happen to see the Pixie Hollow area with
Yeah.
the fountains? Were the fountains there too?
Oh, yeah.
That blew me away. It was,
Mhm.
a scaled down version of basically the world of color. And I will say, he also took us into his garage, which
Oh,
is his
wow.
top secret workshop. And I was sworn to secrecy that I can't say too much, but he is working on something that if you are a fan of galaxies far, far away, you are going to love what he has in store. And I was
You're on
equally
the edge of sharing the secret.
I am,
Be careful.
but yeah, holy smokes.
Wow.
The what he has in that garage, I was like, if you thought the backyard was cool, if you thought the house was cool, what he's got hiding in that garage is going to take you to infinity and beyond.
I love it. Love it, love
Yeah.
it, love it.
Yeah. And I love what you wrote about this week as we get ready for Father's Day.
This
And
weekend.
I know it's coming up so fast. Yeah. So talk to us kind of about your twist on it and bringing Elias Disney to the forefront of the story for once.
Yeah, so with Father's Day coming up this weekend, I went back to the relationship that Walt had with Elias and, um, sort of the tumult that existed in those two very, very, very different individuals and personalities. And I think
Mm,
a lot of us can identify with, a strained parental relationship or a parent who, doesn't get us or, we don't get our parents, vice versa. And, Elias, was very concerned, that his son Walt was lazy and drifting and engaged in all of these creative activities, but nothing was practical, and nothing was like ever actually going to quote unquote work out, which is sort of ironic because as hard of a worker as Elias was, very little, if anything, ever actually worked out for Elias.
hmm.
And as a result, I think Walt Disney's greatest fear was that he would end up like his father.
Sure.
And over time, Walt was able to shed that and be very successful, obviously, as a creative individual. And, after the success of Oswald and then, of course, Mickey Mouse and ultimately Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, he builds the Disney studio in Burbank, where the company is headquartered to this day. And he's giving his father Elias a tour.
Hmm.
And Elias doesn't understand the studio any more than he understands his son.
Right.
And he keeps asking Walt, "What are you going to do here?" "Well, this is where I make my movies." "Well, yeah, but like, what is all of this for?" "Well, it's for the animators. It's for the cartoons and the Snow Whites that we're going to make."
Hmm.
And Elias just didn't get it. Eventually, Walt, said, Dad, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, I can always just turn this into a hospital."
Mm.
And Elias understood that. He could
Yeah.
see that building as a hospital way more than he could as a creative studio, way more than he could as an animation or a movie center. And It's just a reminder that, those parental relationships are really important and those bonds, of course, matter. And at the same time, you don't have to wait for them to get it. You don't have to
True.
wait for their validation, to own who you are, to move forward with your own goals and your own dreams and your own, success. I know for me, you know, if my dad had had his wish, I would have been some sort of athletic star.
Mm.
Well, that's the last thing in the world that was ever going to happen. I don't have a lot of talents. The few that I have are not coordination, athletic gifts, you name it. But a few years ago when he turned 80 years old, I was able to gift him a jacket from the Atlanta Braves because
Wow.
one of the members of their marketing team had read The Wisdom of Walt, loved it so much that they reached out to me directly and said, hey, I love your book. I'm using it with our marketing team here. I work for the Atlanta Braves. Oh, and by the way, if you ever need anything, please let me know.
Ding ding.
And my dad is a
How
diehard Braves
neat.
fan, and I said, if you're going to offer,
Yeah.
then I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind, sending me a few things so that I could forward them to my father for his 80th birthday, and he did.
Wow.
And that was one of the times in my life where I felt like my dad and I really connected,
Yeah.
and I could genuinely tell that, he was proud of me.
Yeah.
Because again, it was through a lens and a perspective of how he saw the world, and I'm a huge sports fan too, right?
Sure. Sure.
But he wanted his son to be athletic, and I'm not. I've got
Yeah.
a younger brother who is, and,
Sure.
yay Robbie, right?
Right.
And so again, that it was a cool moment that I was able to give that to my dad through the gifts that I do have and the
Right.
talents that I did have the courage to bring to the table.
Right. And at that moment, the two of you spoke the same language, which I'm sure
Right.
for so much of your life you felt like you didn't. And there has to be just such a sense of relief and like you said, pride where you finally feel like he gets it. Like
Right.
I get him, he gets me, and there's space for both of us now.
Yep. Didn't
That's
last very long,
incredible.
but we did have that moment.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take what we can get. It reminds me of a story real quick. So back in high school, I was very athletic. I was on varsity sports teams and I walked off of a position on playing softball, varsity catcher, because I was chasing a guy and the guy was going into track and field. Well, I was built to be a catcher, not a track runner, let alone a pole vaulter. And I walked away from this opportunity to get scouted for university level scholarship. And my dad never let me live it down. I mean, he
Mm,
brought up that conversation at every meal, just about,
wow.
well, whenever I'd bring new friends over, did you hear the story about how Kristin, just pissed away her career? And it was just so funny. And I felt like for a very long time, like because of that decision, because I didn't become the, pro athlete that he had hoped for, that
Right.
maybe I missed my mark. But
Here you are.
yeah, here I am. If only he could see me now.
And a shout out to my sister Dina. You reminded me because I always give the athletic kudos to my brother Robbie.
Mm.
My sister Dina did go to college on a softball scholarship.
Heck yeah, that's why I love her so much.
I
It's
think
in the
that's why
blood.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, we get along very well.
you do. So, happy Father's Day, everyone. And if
Absolutely.
you found that relationship to be challenging, you're not alone. Walt went through it with Elias, and celebrate your parents, celebrate your dad anyway, and
Mhm.
try to find that shared language. If it's sports, if it's seeing the building as a hospital instead of a studio, or you know, chasing scholarships instead of guys, whatever it takes.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks again for joining us this week for episode 21, and we cannot wait to see you real soon.